This is the Cupra Born, all 2 tons of it. The drive down to where I'm going to have a little bit of fun has got a little bit of everything. It's got some crap road surfaces, it's got this bit of 80km/h freeway, it's got a few bends, some bumps, it's even got, of all things, a level crossing. So the suspension is working reasonably hard before we even get to the fun stuff. It's great. The ride is really, really good. In the performance, I think with the bigger wheels and the little bit less tyre sidewall, there's a bit of a on some surfaces, but nothing terrible, and you just feel some bumps. And that's largely down to the fact that the rear end is a multi-link rear end, and the weight is of course in an EV low down, so that it's not being thrown around as much. So yeah, it's a very comfortable ride, and I discovered that on a 240k round trip up into the Blue Mountains, which is my range test, or one of my range tests anyway. It's really good. So like I say, I'm in comfort mode. Now on this second charge, as in since I charged it after picking it up full, I've been driving it mostly in Cupra mode. Yeah, I'm just reminding myself of how nice comfort mode is. It's very easy to drive. It kind of feels like what I expect an electric MQB car would feel like, except this is MEB, the electric Volkswagen platform. The long wheelbase also means that, you know, things are very smooth, and what it may or may not lose in agility, something we'll discover soon. Being long wheelbase, we will talk about in a few minutes when we get to the twisty stuff. But it certainly means the ride for everybody is really good. So if this is a car you're going to be taking people around in, and I think a lot of people who watch this channel or who have watched this channel in the past, they're looking for a compromise car, the kind of car that makes everyone happy. And you know, my wife has driven this and she's like, that's a nice car to drive, isn't it? That's just, she leaves cars in comfort unless they're really doughy, and then she puts them in sport. But you know, she doesn't go into Cupra mode or anything like that. And the seats are comfortable, there's plenty of room, there's a lot of glass in this car. I mean, you can see with all the light in here, I really needed an overcast day for this. Apologies for the messy lighting. It's just really comfortable. It feels like a really good petrol hatchback. And just a really, really quiet one. And most of the noise you hear is either the tyres going over bumps, a little bit of road noise, which I'm always happy to expect and happy to live with in an electric car, and far more expensive ones from either this group or another group, like, you know, Geely, like the Polestars. They make a bit of road noise, and that's okay, particularly the more performance-oriented ones on the wider tyres. And this is on Michelin Pilot Sport, which is much preferable to, say, I don't know, really noisy Pirelli P0s. Now, just for a moment, I'm trying the range mode. Now, range is basically the electric equivalent of eco mode, and it's as you might expect. Probably not for you. The other thing I'll point out is this car only has 2 settings for the regen, and that's off and on. So on the twisty drive selector up on the dash, so it's all clear down here, rocket forward to put into drive, and you rocket forward again to put it in B, I assume, for battery. And that gives you the one and only energy recovery setting. I've driven a number of Chinese EVs recently. One of them was for my other endeavours in the motoring journalism world, which is for drive.com.au. I found that the BYDs particularly, but also the MGs, they don't have nearly enough energy recovery. The MG4 is really genuinely let down by the fact that it only has one even close to reasonable energy recovery, and that's the strongest. And that's a real shame, because I think that probably affects the range. This isn't so bad. It's a genuine kind of, yep, you lift off, you feel it, it's good, but it's not going to tear your retinas off or anything. It's, you know, like the one in the Polestar and the Volvo XC40s, those that car, they're all made on that same platform, the name of which has just escaped me at this critical point. they have really strong energy recovery, so much so that on a road like this you can't use it, because when you lift off it's like, whoa, it is like you have stepped on the brakes. Like the old story that, you know, when you lift off in a Formula One car you get 1G of braking or something, such as the downforce, and it's a little bit overdone like that. Whereas this, you lift off here, and I would say it's been tuned to react differently at different speeds, because there's less deceleration at 105 than there is at, say, 60. It is not one pedal driving. That's probably the main disappointment. And I imagine that if it had that next step stronger recovery, it'd eke out a bit more range. But I love one pedal driving. I think it's great, particularly in the vast majority of the driving that we as drivers do, which is city driving. And I've got to say, one of the things I like about this is the driving position. It's really good. I didn't get a sore knee, a sore hip. I'm getting old. I'm really old. I didn't get a sore knee. I didn't get a sore hip. I didn't get a sore bum when I was driving. It holds you in nicely, but not too tightly. I mean, I'm not a big guy, but I'm held in appropriately. These seats are lovely, and I thoroughly recommend those to you. I'm now doing 100 kilometres an hour, legally, of course. And I feel like it's not very noisy at all. There's a little bit of rustle from the wing mirrors, but not that fatiguing amount that you get on some cars. Easily drowned out by the stereo, which again we discovered on the weekend on our big drive. You know, there's a really strong sense that this car, at a baseline, really well engineered. And I really like that about this, because when you're paying upwards of 60 grand for any car, you want that engineering to be good. And that's where I think this car, in your travels, will perform well against the MG4 X-Power, for instance, which looks like it's got the goods, but as a lot of other testers have found, it's left wanting as a performance car. And I think that's a really important point to make, that yes, this costs about the same or a bit less than an X-Power, which has 380 kilowatts, but you can't use it. And if you're going to buy a straight line screamer, is an MG4 the car for you? Anyway, having said that, there is going to be a very fast version of this coming that has been confirmed for Australia. I don't know what the price is. If I do know, it'll be on the screen. I think this will look pretty good against the cheaper MG4 X-Power, or even, you know, the MG4 itself, which itself is a very, very good car. Now, this surface is less good than the surfaces I've just been on, and it's still pretty serene in here. I've switched up to Cupra mode to kind of get a feel for what it's like in normal driving, so I can talk to you about it in real time. And again, the surface isn't great, but the damping, even though it's stiffer, is pretty good. It's not eating away at my patience. Gains a little bit more control of the weight of the car, so it doesn't transfer quite as noticeably as you're changing direction. And these are gentle curves. We'll get into the good stuff in a minute. I've found it's actually pretty good for just driving around in. You do feel the bumps a lot more, but you know, obviously that's the price you pay. It gives you a sharper throttle and a quicker transition when you throttle off. So when you lift off the throttle, you're still getting the same amount of recovery, or what feels like the same amount of recovery, but it comes on a lot kind of more aggressively in a sense. So there's no kind of gentle roll off into the recovery. It just starts recovering, and that's what you want when you're pressing on, which is exactly what we're about to do. Big cheerio to that idiot in that ute. All right, so we're now on a concrete road, which is not my favourite surface. We're in Cupra. This road has some twists, so we're going to learn some stuff about this car very soon. So let's recall, up to 170 kilowatts, 310 newton meters, and rear wheel drive. Now, I've left the ESC on. Actually, no, it's in ESC Sport because it's in Cupra. I do not turn off ESC on cars that I don't own, and to be perfectly honest with you, I don't turn it off on cars I do own. Just, you don't have room for that kind of nonsense on a public road. That's all I'm saying. Again, this is a pretty terrible surface, but the damping is handling it really, really well. One thing I didn't talk to you about before, and this is where we're probably going to be talking about the only thing I don't really like about this car, is the brake pedal itself. It's a bit mushy. unexpectedly so. Because often in EVs you get this kind of quite wooden brake pedal, and I think in trying to chase some feel, it's gone not well. All right, there we go. That was a corner. That was fun. Holding the line nicely, slightly awkward weight transition, but nothing to worry about. The kind of thing you will absolutely get used to. This is fun. I haven't had a good fast drive in a long time, so I'm a little bit rusty. Steering's accurate. Even in Cupra, it's weighted up. Cupra mode, sorry, just because we're in a Cupra. It's weighted up, but it's still a little bit lacking in feedback. But I do understand that this is a different surface from what I'm getting through the wheel, and it feels pretty good. The weight is just right. Actually, it's not too heavy. Some electric cars just go, oh, you're in sport. Oh, well, I'll just turn the assistance off. No, it's nice and it's smooth. On the brakes, turn in. Oh, yeah. Resists understeer pretty well. There's a corner down here that'll really sort that out. This is a pretty bad surface because it's concrete panels that have shifted over the last, I'm going to say, 60 years. In some cars, it's not a lot of fun. The car pitches over the changes, and some cars, even not particularly low cars, bottom out down here. And we won't talk about the time I bottomed out a Lamborghini Aventador. No, we won't, even though I was just driving normally. That's how nasty this road is. But I really like the way the rear-wheel drive is lovely, because it's taking all that drive and torque and putting it back there where it belongs, and leaving the front wheels to do the work that they're meant for, which is steering the car and, of course, braking it. So the fronts are disc, the rears are drums, which gives you an idea of how much braking there is in the regen. Now, I used to be about drums, but the rear does so little braking in a car, and ABS is here. The only thing I would worry about is if you did track this car, would they survive a day on a track? Change of direction, the car was settled and happy. All right, this is a fun little section here. Leaning on it a bit. Yeah, just, you can hear the tyres working. Yeah, now, the brakes, look, they're there. The brakes are absolutely there, but I just don't feel like they're as confidence-inspiring as you might hope. I just think it's that kind of thing as an owner, you'll go, yep, you'll be able to push through the mush and live with it quite happily. Oh, this is great. Actually, really good. Again, another awful transition on the surface. The car handled it beautifully. So while the performance itself, 7 seconds to 100, is warm hatch in this day and age, 20 years ago that was a hot hatch, it does have a really strong feel to the chassis. And so, where MG is pitching the 4 as, and I wouldn't necessarily say this is a direct competitor, but where MG is pushing the 4 as a hot hatch, this performance version of the Born does feel closer to a hot hatch than that car. And I'm cool with that. I like that. And as I said to you before, I've really enjoyed driving this car around. This is a very strong everyday proposition. So let's talk about the spec and why I think these things about this car. Let's have a quick look at this car. Hello. Now, one of the things you'll notice is just how far apart these wheels are. They are 2,766 millimeters apart. What does that mean? Well, it means they're a long way apart. That's what it means. And it means you get a ton of interior space. It also makes the car look longer than it really is, and it makes it look lower than it really is, because this is quite a high car. It is based on Volkswagen's ID3, which we don't yet have here, but it won't be long. Actually, by the time this video goes out, it may very well be here. I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to get out of the way again. I really like the glasshouse shape, and I like this. The wing mirrors look great. I like this texturing here. It's actually taken that ID3 shape and made it a bit cooler. And I tell you what I really like. I love this little aero device thing. It looks like a fence, but it's not. So I'm going to sit here and have a bit of a think while I tell you about the spec. So I'll just have a rest and I'll let voiceover me do all the hard work. while I'm sitting here, how cool are these wheels? They look like the Sparco Oz Racing wheels from, I don't know, I guess like an early 90s Escort RS Cosworth. I reckon they just look brilliant. And what I like about them too is that they make the rears, you can't even see the discs, so they just look strong. They're big too. So these are 20s. And because it's the performance pack, they're 20s, the standard car has 19s. And you've got 235/40 Michelin Pilot Sport. Well, they're Pilot Sport EVs or Pilot Sport 4s? It says Pilot Sport EV, but I think they're based on the Pilot Sport 4. And I am a big fan of Michelin Pilot Sports. They're very good tyres.
Now that he's shut up, I can tell you about the spec. The Born arrived here in Australia in 2023 and made a pretty immediate splash, selling out quickly. Cupra was happy with that and had to order more of them to satisfy demand. Born comes in 3 flavours, as you can choose between the interior package and the performance package, or just stick with the base package. Without a ticked box, you get 19-inch Typhoon wheels, auto LED headlights, auto wipers, tyre pressure monitoring, 12-inch media screen, surround view cameras, heated leather steering wheel, keyless entry and start, front and rear parking sensors, dual zone climate control, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, DAB digital radio, and a tyre repair kit. You also get a 5.3-inch digital dashboard. The Born ships with a whopping 82 kilowatt-hour battery pack, 77 of which is usable. This is the kind of battery size you see in expensive Euro sedans and SUVs, or expensive for China brands.
You finished yet?
No, I'm not done, so just shut up for a sec.
Sorry.
WLTP figures for the Born with the 82 kilowatt-hour battery pack are a healthy 511 kilometres. This car also has the performance package, which adds 20-inch Firestorm alloy wheels, 235/40 R20 Michelin Pilot Sport EV tyres, the same 2-seat rear bench as the interior package, and adaptive damping. It also adds $2,600 to the price.
Okay, that's enough. Now, I'm sitting behind where I drive, and I reckon this is pretty good. Nice thing about it is, the seat's comfortable. You cannot have someone sitting next to you, so you can put your little phone down here in this funny little depression. You've got 2 USB-C ports, but no USB-A. Little map pockets. Who uses those? Good for devices, bigger ones, I suppose. Here you've got what looks like a bottle holder, but probably wouldn't take one. You do have an armrest with 2 open cup holders as well. And of course, electric windows all round. Look, this is comfortable. And unusually for a hatchback of this size, I don't feel kind of hemmed in. So yeah, nice. And I probably failed to mention this virtually flat floor, which means, well, if it had a middle seat, you'd be all right, but
The boot has a pretty decent 385 litre capacity. Less than handy is the lack of a front boot, so the charging cable will slide around in the back. The cable comes with its own black modesty pouch, but here it is in the middle of the boot floor. No room for a spare under there, but there's a little spot for a tyre repair kit in its own black bag. There's a ski port and 60/40 split fold, which is pretty easy to master, but with the seats out of the way, the floor is not flat. No flat packs for you.
this is the tiny screen, and as I said before, it is quite small. What does that mean though? Like, is it bad? No. Everything is there right in front of you. You can see it. There's no head-up display in this car, so you are relying purely on that thing right in front of you. It's got all the information. You can change things once you've dismissed that. I complained about the size of this screen in a BYD, and so I should be complaining about it in this. That screen, however, is not small. Look, it's a nice screen, just the tiniest bit of lag. There's more detailed climate control in there. Yeah, I think we can do better than that. CarPlay, that looks pretty good when it comes up actually. Once it's in, the lag pretty much goes away. And this is what I like about wired. It just works. And you can get to climate control there, heated seating there, information about the car there. So if it does get confused, there is a start-stop button on the side of the column, but you can just sit in the car to start it up, which is cool. So you can change all your driver assistance here and your driver alerts. And I've got to say, the safety systems are great. I have had hardly any false positives, and even then they've just been, oh, that car's coming your way, when it really wasn't, but no big deal. You can also set up your charging. It does tell you to charge to 80%. Look, in this car with such a whopping great battery and a genuinely long range, I mean, look at that. That's suggesting 472 after I've been driving the way I've been driving today. Like that's the claimed range is 475 in the performance, so that's not bad at all. I think you can get it, and of course you can change drive profiles and that kind of thing. So it's all very cool, calm, and useful. People complain about the Volkswagen system. I've been known to do that because I'm a car journalist and expect everything to come my way. It's really not that bad. It's one of those things, and there's a few of those things on these cars. You just got to get used to it. That's the armrest in the way, by the way. But as I say, really, really comfortable car. I am quite taken with it, actually. I expected to like it, but I didn't think I'd like it this much. That is the Cupra Born. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you've got one. Tell me if you're getting the kind of range that I'm seeing. Tell me if I'm driving like an absolute wuss and therefore getting that kind of range. Thanks so much for watching. As always, like, subscribe, get on it, get involved in the comments. I love talking to you. And yeah, and just for a bit of fun, I've left the windscreen wipers there in the up position because I think clap your hands wipers are hilarious.